Welcome to the RAS Project, a conversation about life, entrepreneurship, personal development, family tech, and marketing. My name is Ivan Temelkov, and I'm your host. What's on this podcast for you? Here you will grasp life-changing advice to help you level up in every aspect of your life and business and help you reach your goals and dreams. As always, all content is 100% real, raw, and unfiltered. And ladies and gentlemen, I have a treat today. I'm joined by Bella, who is the CEO and founder of the first and only female-led sales agency serving the United States, Canada, and Australia. Bella has been selling since she was 8 years old, and by the time she was 19, she was a top income earner in a network marketing organization. She quickly discovered something about sales that her competitors seemed to not understand: a true desire to make people feel listened to, paired with a go-getter attitude, outperformed by all the aggressive manipulative sales tactics that were industry standard. As a result, she built a seven-figure real estate company by 24, becoming the #1 business broker in the state of Nevada. Some may say she has sales in her soul. Now, as the CEO of Alliance Sales Services LLC, her passion is helping businesses scale and women create financial independence through sales. Bella, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate being here.
You know what? As I was reading your bio, and I think I mentioned this before we hit record, I'm like, holy fucking shit. Like this woman has done some amazing things. So let's take things back to when you were 8 years old, right? Let's think about this for a second. So I have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, and I'm thinking, okay, you were 8 years old and you're thinking about like sales. Like, how did this all get started? Let's talk a little bit about the 8-year-old Bella.
The 8-year-old Bella. So I've always been, an entrepreneur at heart and innovative and creative. And so at 8 years old, where most kids, especially girls, are starting lemonade stands, right? So I saw all these kids in my neighborhood starting lemonade stands. And I thought to myself, well, I don't want to fucking do what everybody else is doing. Like, I don't want to have competition. What else can I do? And I love to make crafts. I spent a lot of time alone as a kid, and I loved crafts. So what I would do is I would make these wreaths. And I would make each wreath, like, depending on the holiday. So like right now I'd be making a 4th of July wreath, right? And then, a Memorial Day, and then Halloween and Thanksgiving and Christmas and all these things. So I'd always make these wreaths per the holiday season. And I learned at a very young age, if I just asked people what they wanted on the wreath, and if I put what they wanted on the wreath, they would buy the wreath. And
right.
So that's where I really started to learn about sales, is like, ask people what they want, deliver what they want, and they will buy. And at the time I had a really great business model, because my parents would take me to Michael's and buy all my craft supplies, and then I would sell all my wreaths and keep the cash. So it was a really great business model, which, you have 2 girls. I don't recommend doing it that way, because they could really learn a lot about business. But at the time I was like, stacking the cash. So I
can already kind of envision an 8-year-old hustling, building wreaths, and connecting with people, in a way that most people don't. And I think that's sort of what you were sort of emphasizing, is that I think at a very young age, I mean, mind you, at 8 years old, like you said, most 8-year-olds, boys and girls, they're not really, fathoming the fact of connecting with people, like really connecting with them. And here's you at 8 years old, like you're already understanding that mentality about connectivity with people. And in fact, it so much resonates with my business that is so human-centric and so human-focused, because you said it, is in sales, it's about connectivity. It's about knowing what people want and being able to deliver a solution that exactly meets those needs. Well, getting an understanding of what they want is sort of like the preliminary step, connecting with people, but then delivering. So you're building these wreaths, you're stacking up the cash, 8 years old. Like, how did that pan out with all your peers? Like, I mean, here you are, like building REITs and stuff, and generating cash, and your friends are going like, "What the fuck are you doing?" Like, how did that, like, how did you like digest all of that? Did that create any pressure on?
Not really, because like as I said, I spent a lot of time alone. So I
Mhm.
didn't have like a whole lot of friends. Like my friends like on the neighborhood, but I have mostly like played alone. So there wasn't really like much conversation
Mhm.
around it. My parents were divorced, so I would go back and forth a lot, and so just I never really had established like a great like core group of friends growing up.
Sure.
So it was like, that was kind of my way of, and the adults that would come by and buy my things, like they were kind of my
Mhm.
friends. And I love what you said about the connection piece, because that's really truly
Yeah.
what sales is about. Like sales is service, sales is connection, sales is solving problems. And that's why like I love, and why we're the best, like if I do say so myself, we're the best sales agency in the market, because one, all the others are run by men, which is nothing wrong with men, but women have a different level of care. We
Right.
ask more questions, and we'll be like my clients, even after the fact, that if they call me 6 months and like, hey, I've got this thing, can you answer this question for me? Like, I'll answer that question. We solve sales
Yeah.
problems like nobody's business, and it's because we just ask the right questions, and we really truly want to deliver exactly what people want.
There were a couple of things that you mentioned in that statement that I wanted to touch upon. First of all, going back to 8-year-old Bella, one of the things that I think us entrepreneurs, and let's face it, we're just a different breed,
Yeah.
is that whether you're male or female, we're very commonly misconstrued because we're kind of on our own designated island, at least in our early beginnings, right? We're always doing the polar opposite of what everyone else is doing, as you said so yourself. And as a result, society sees us as an anomaly. They see us as, extroverts, right? Which is a good thing, because that is how things really happen. Is if you keep doing the same shit as everybody else, you're never going to get the different result. And what was
Yeah.
really interesting that you mentioned is this, that even though your parents were divorced, it sounds like you found a passion for what you were doing, and
Yeah.
that's really kind of snowballed into everything else. So that was the first thing I wanted to touch upon. The second thing that you mentioned, and I wholeheartedly believe in this. In fact, this is why I've sort of veered into the whole human marketing aspect over the last 4 years with my business, is because it's care. It's giving a shit. And what you said, you're absolutely right. I think it's the female mantra is that genuinely caring for your clients.
Mm-hmm.
As in, if you say you're going to do something, you do it. Or if you don't and you fuck up or whatever, you take accountability
Yeah.
and be upfront and say, you know what, I fucked this up, but I'll make it right. And
Yep.
I think that's exactly what females, fempreneurs, bring to this predominantly ran male-centric entrepreneurial community. So, okay, you're building these REITs. What happened after, like, you're stacking the cash? What happened after that?
So what happened after that is a very interesting story that's not in my bio. So that was when I lived in Houston, and then we moved to Austin. And as I mentioned, I come from a divorced family. My father's a drug addict and an alcoholic. And so at 17 years old, I moved out and started dating a drug dealer and became a drug dealer myself. And
Okay.
so a, like a lot of great entrepreneurs, got my sales, got my like hard hustle and hard sales, selling those dime sacks on the streets. And
Yeah.
until one day I got a knock at my door, and I was staring down the barrel of a shotgun. And that was the day that I knew like something had to change. Like
Yeah.
I was great at this, drug selling, because one, I was, I've always been kind of a like prissy, like to dress up, dress nice kind of girl. So that kind of image, selling drugs, was not
Yeah.
aligned.
Yeah.
So when that happened, I said, you know, something's got to change. It was right before my 18th birthday, and the only thing that I could remember at the time was my grandfather always talked to my father about like getting out of drugs and getting into sales. My grandfather was a door-to-door salesman, sold all kinds of things. You know, he was Jewish, so he built up, you know, his wealth and all doing sales. And I always remembered him saying to my dad, like, you got to get in sales. Like, you got to stop doing this. You got to get into sales. And so that's what I did. I decided to get out of drug sales and into, someone had introduced me to a network marketing company. And so I started them. I signed the contract on my 18th birthday. And by the time I was 19 years old, I was a top income earner with that company. And that's where I got my like education in like sales as personal development, because sales, you have to overcome so much personally to be good at sales. You've got to not be afraid of rejection. Like, you can't be afraid of no. Like, your confidence to be really good at sales, like, you have to have a fuck ton of confidence, and you have to have a high level of care, because people can smell a salesy person from miles away. So so you've got to have that confidence. You've got to be willing to push people past their comfort zone from a place of love and care, which is why I think women are so great at sales. Women that are like, you know, can hone in on that confidence and really own their value and own their worth, and can also push people past their comfort zone, because that's what sales is pushing them past their comfort zone so that they can make a life-changing decision, which is what I did at 18 years old. I made a life-changing decision. I got into network marketing, and if you can make it in network marketing, you can pretty much make it anywhere. By the time I was 19 years old, I was a top income earner with that company. Then they were shut down by the FTC or DSA or something. That company was shut down. And that's when I went into commercial real estate in Las Vegas, Nevada, at 24 years old. And commercial real estate is typically a male-dominated industry, and I crushed it. I was the #1 business broker in the state for 3 years, and always just, you know, because I came to the negotiation table, I was usually negotiating with old white Democratic men. And like, I would come to the table with my fiery red head and 24 years old, and just would not expect my negotiation. And then they would get up from the table and they'd be like, what the fuck did I just sign? Like, how did this happen? And so, and then from there, you know, commercial real estate. And then from there, I've been a serial entrepreneur with a style company and now a sales agency.
It's an amazing story. You know, you talked about so many things that, you know, I think you've always had that strong level of confidence, which I think it's actually kind of cliche, because in a predominantly ran male entrepreneurial world, most males actually struggle with self-confidence. I know a lot of sales guys that, you know, are kind of beating their chest and saying, I'm, you know, the top salesman at my company. They in fact have confidence issues. And like, you're absolutely right. You have to have confidence. You have to be able to step outside of the comfort zone. If you get a no or multiple no's, just know that it's that much closer to a yes. You know, and just keep beating that horse until, you know, you get a yes, because that actually indicates your level of resilience and the ability to be persistent. And that's what people don't understand. I mean, and speaking from my own experience, because when I was really young, I was an introvert, and not by choice, because as an Eastern European, being bullied all through high school and always thinking I just didn't have what it took, until I realized, you know what? Fuck all that shit. I always had what it took. I've always had more than what everyone else had. I've always been confident, but you know what? I allowed the mediocrity of society to stoop me down to their level. And that's what happens to a lot of people. So I think it's amazing that where you are today, I mean, you're sort of paving the path for a lot of female entrepreneurs, you know, that have probably thought multiple times about, hey, what if I started my own business, or there's something that I've been passionate about. You're offering a lot of encouragement to a lot of women, a lot around the world, and it's actually kind of awesome that like you are like almost walking over majority of these like male entrepreneurs, you know, because like I said, this has been a predominantly male driven entrepreneurial community for a very long time. So you are sort of like disrupting, which I love disrupting anything, in
Yes.
fact, because I hate being conventional. I hate being traditional. I've always been an early adopter myself. Anytime I come across someone like you, it's like, holy shit, there's other people out there, especially a female is disrupting an entire entrepreneurial community. So let's talk about, you know, aligned sales more. And let's talk about the sales approach and how do you cultivate a community, and what's your kind of different take on this?
So I would say my different take is the fact that as an agency, we primarily focus on placing female sales professionals. So that's really what sets us apart from any other agency is we focus on placing female sales professionals, and we also focus on placing for the long haul. So there's a lot of traditional agencies out there that like are an outsourced agency. And I really learned early on that I don't believe that model works, because it creates a separation between the entrepreneur and the salesperson, because you have this agency entity that is in the middle, and to me creates a disconnection and a separation. So we first disrupted the market in going towards a placement model with a management option. So when we place an agent, they work for the entrepreneur, they work directly with, they're part of the team. And we really set them up on the front end. We do all the hiring. So we really focus on the hiring for the long haul, because as a company, and most companies that we work with, this is their first sales hire. And if you're looking to hire a salesperson, you first and foremost want to be doing at least 50K a month already in sales before you start hiring someone. So that's rule number one. And then number two is you really want to hire someone for the long haul. So many people make the mistake of like, oh, I need a salesperson right now. But a salesperson, every time you turn over a salesperson, that could cost you anywhere from $60,000 to $100,000. So your interview process has to be really dialed in. And we have a 3-step interview process that we use. It has to be dialed in so you know that that person is at least going to be committed for a year or more. So whenever we place someone, we don't place anyone who, you know, wants to do sales while they build their side hustle. Like we won't place them. We'll send them somewhere else, because there's a lot of people who get into especially high ticket sales for the money so that they can build their side hustle. We don't do that. To really grow and scale a company, you want a salesperson who is dedicated to you, who wants to be part of your team, who's not interested in a side hustle or, you know, someday doing their own thing, that they really are part of your team. And so that's one thing that like sets us apart. And what I think every entrepreneur should really understand is you want to hire someone that is absolutely dedicated to you, dedicated to your growth. And then the other thing is like, your sales processes are different from if you're doing your own sales. You don't have to have much of a process. Like you can do your own thing, send your contracts, and do however, if you start to get to that place where you're scaling and you want to have someone sell your dream for you so that you can be the visionary and you can grow the company, grow the brand, is, you know, you want to make sure all your processes are set up and there's automations. And so we help our clients do that as well. And then also on the back end is onboarding your salesperson. Like so many people, they just throw a salesperson into the mix. Like you said, you're good at sales, take these calls, and then they're not doing so good and they don't know why. And it's because you didn't have a really great onboarding process that really integrated them into the culture. because more than knowing about what the product is, which is also important, is you want to integrate that person into the culture, make sure that make them feel like they're part of the family, make them feel like they're an extension of you, because if they love you and they care for you, they're going to sell 20 to 30% higher than if you're just like hiring someone just to do sales. And we don't do, we don't use like term closing. It's like agreement formation, because all of our salespeople are into transformation. They're selling for transformation.
Right.
And so when someone comes to me and they're like, oh, I want to be a closer for you, I'm like, I'm not looking for a closer. I'm looking for a sales professional. Because the closers to me are just fucking order takers. I fucking hate the word closers. Like, you're an order taker. A sales professional is a hustler. Like, if their calendar's not booked, then they're going to go book appointments. Like, be a salesperson, not a closer.
Yeah. No, you mentioned so many good things in that statement. Is this is that, and I think sales traditionally has been done like that for a very long time. Is this that salespeople are almost like following the teleprompter. They're afraid to step outside of the comfort zone. They're afraid to try something different. They're just only focusing on closing. And I think you also talked about someone who's invested into your company, right?
Yep.
When you hire someone, which really has a lot to do, I think, with company culture.
Yep.
Also is really understanding, because they have to feel like they belong. In fact, it's so ironic because I was talking to a prospect earlier today, and she was talking about her high turnover, and that's exactly what I told her. I said, let's face it, then the reality of things is paying people money and probably even offering benefits barely gets them out of bed these days. So like, what else do you have that's enticing, that's going to make them feel like they belong? And that's where company culture, comes in, because if you don't have company culture, you don't have a company, let alone hiring salespeople who are going to hustle and bustle for you without you giving them orders. Like, they're going to pick up the phone, or go into their Rolodex and start firing emails off, or get on social media and start talking to people. They're just go-getters because they have it at heart. And let's face it, in the sales space, the vast majority of people aren't like that.
Yeah.
Because they are exactly that. They're just closing. They're just trying to get the next contract, And what's really difficult about that too is that I think there has to be a fine line between, yes, doing more than that's expected, but at the same time, knowing also what to do. It's kind of a happy balance, because, also these people, first and foremost, they have to feel like they belong. If they don't feel like that they don't belong, they're not going to work as hard as you. In fact, most of the employees are not going to work as hard as you, because that's why you've got the biggest potential as a CEO within your company, is because you're multifaceted and you can do a lot of different things, and you can do it better than everyone else, right? So that's awesome that you share that. So, okay, from here, I know we were chatting about everything that you have done, and with aligned sales and the way you guys are growing. I love the differentiating factor. I love that you said that you hate closers, because I feel the same way. When building relationships, I don't want someone to close me, nor do I want to close somebody. Like, this just it just feels like you're just another notch on the belt, just another contract.
Yeah.
Like, there's no relationship developing there, whatsoever. Right. I know that we can chat. Go ahead.
Before you go on, I do want to add, because like something to what you were saying is like, that culture fit, and we're aligned agency for a reason, or aligned sales for a reason, because we really find aligned matches. And just to like give you an example, so I placed a salesperson right before COVID hit. And we really do, we work really hard to make sure it's a line fit. And so this particular person had a high ticket offer around helping salon owners go from 6 to 7 figures. And I sourced a salesperson who's a high ticket salesperson who had 10 years ago owned a salon. So there was obviously like a very good culture fit. It was a very aligned offer. It was a very aligned fit. And she to this day, so she started right before COVID started. So she's been with them now for like 3 months, and she is still closing at nearly 100,000 a month. Last month she did 83,000, and fucking salons aren't even open right now. But that's how you know, like, it's a really good aligned fit, and she's committed to the audience, and she's committed to what it is that they're doing. Is she's still closing at $83,000 when fucking salons aren't even open?
Yeah, that's amazing. You know, that's when you know that you have a true go-getter. I mean, it is so hard to find dependable people nowadays, let alone people who, you know, execute on the things that they promise. And so anytime, you know, you find a person like that, if I was the company that she's working for, I'd be like, holy fucking shit, like, you better be making it worthwhile for her every single fucking day, because she's your number one earner. She's closing deals. Even when salons were closed, she's still closing deals. So this is someone that's like unafraid, you know, to get no's, unafraid to be constantly going. And that is what I think it takes. And so it's amazing that I think with your company, with Align Sales, also the ability to find those kinds of people, because they're one in a million, I think.
Yeah.
You know, to find those kinds of people, because, and that's another thing that I think I've learned personally, is just that the reason why salespeople are expensive, especially the really good ones, is because they know their worth.
Yep.
They know what they bring to the table. And I think we live in this digital world where a lot of companies, especially when it comes to sales, that they're always trying to undercut. They're trying to get salespeople for as cheap as possible.
Yep.
When in fact, let's face this, sales is about 30% of every business. If you don't have sales, you don't have a business.
You don't have a business.
You know, so these people are literally, you know, laying it on the line. And most salespeople I know are putting in 10, 12, 14-hour days. Not because they just want to get a bigger check, but it's because they love what they do. It's in their DNA. They're real connectors.
Yeah.
Hence why, going back to your network marketing days, you know, I think you've always been a connector that's carried on to building your business and understanding, you know, the mentality, the nuances of what it takes to build powerful relationships that have longevity. So with that being said, I know we can totally be jamming about all of this even more. I've absolutely enjoyed the conversation, and you shared so much, especially for a lot of female entrepreneurs that are going to listen to this episode. But before we close things off, throw out some handles. How can people connect with you? What's the best way to reach you?
Yeah, so Instagram, I'm Bella and Verita, linesales.co, and we have a Facebook page, LinkedIn. So you can either find me at Bella and Verita or linesales.co. If you just go to our website, then you can, you know, click on the links. I love to answer questions in Facebook Messenger. I love to answer questions on Instagram, LinkedIn. I'm like, I may or may not check that. I'm trying to get better. Better at that, but we have a lot of free resources. Like we have a lot of free resources on, you know, how to hire a no cost six-figure salesperson. We have some checklists on, you know, if you're thinking about hiring a salesperson, you know, what are the things that the checklist that you want to do to, like, even before you start hiring or think about hiring, like those sort of checklists that you can all find at alignsales.co.
Awesome. I want to thank you so much, Bella. I really, really enjoyed our conversation. And hopefully that everyone that's listening can reach out and connect with you, especially a lot of the resources that you mentioned. People that are interested in finding that salesperson specific and someone that's invested into their company. So thank you again for taking the time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.